Thanks a lot for joining us on Newsnight this evening. The big question, though, is you're insisting on having this inquiry. In fact, the first seating was actually today, right? You're giving yourselves about 3 months to actually conclude this investigation. But if we remember first, it was the very same residents that said that they did not even want you in Alexandra Township before you even initiated the inquiry. So then the question is, when the residents themselves are saying, we don't want you, you still insist on having an inquiry. How do you justify that?
Well, we have a constitutional mandate to probe any human rights violations. I think maybe this points to the need for us to amplify awareness around the work of the Commission, particularly in informal settlements, in places like Alexandra, where there's unspeakable degradation.
But this unspeakable degradation has been happening for a long time. This is not unspeakable degradation that happened about 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden, when people decided to protest. So if this unspeakable degradation was present, why did you not institute a commission, the inquiry in itself back then when the degradation was at its peak? Unless, of course, you're saying that it gives us, as you've said with your words, it gives us an opportunity to actually shed some light in terms of the work of the Commission. Does that not mean that you're taking more of an opportunistic appeal as opposed to taking a stance where you want to get to the bottom of the plight of the people?
Well, it's not opportunistic. In fact, the Commission has been involved in a number of initiatives to assist the people of Alex. We engage with government at all levels on various issues, including the distinctive needs of poor people. In 2008, for example, the Commission spent 3 weeks in Alex to probe the outbreak of violence.
And then after 2008, what happened?
After that, we had engagements with government on various issues. But we have realized that the situation has worsened, and there's a need for the Commission to come out with a report which will provide clear directives with time-bound actions.
Well, in 2008, you went in because of the violence and the spate of violence, etc., right? So in 2008, and then you submitted it, and there was engagements.
Yeah.
From 2008, it's 2019. So now you're going in 2019 again, where the situation is now flared up. But meanwhile, the very same situation, which is related to service delivery, has been in existence probably before 2008 in itself. So back to the question of, right now you're initiating this, and you can understand that it sounds more of a reactionary approach as opposed to being proactive with regards to being able to handle and being able to actually have an inquiry into the living standards of people, because these living standards have been existing prior to 2008 in itself.
If you look at the new Commission, since the new commissioners took over 2 years ago, the Commission has been more proactive, more progressive, and has focused on high-impact interventions, such as the Alexandra issues. We've been involved in the Vaal River System contamination inquiry. There are a number of initiatives that we've undertaken, and we've increased our visibility. More and more people know about our existence, and they are lodging complaints with the SAHRC Human Rights Commission.
You're saying that people know about
it? We do take criticism, but we are empowered to initiate our own investigations in terms of our own act, and that has been the focus of our interventions, to be more proactive, to monitor media reports, and to also have ambassadors in far-flung areas, because those people are our eyes and ears, because we do not have institutional presence in all the 4 corners of this country.
Well, I can understand, and I take the point about being aware, because people need to understand that where do they go to when they feel as though their human rights have been violated. But the very same people you were trying to go to actually turned around and said, we don't want you there, and yet you are insisting to be there. So maybe the very same people that you are trying to actually have an inquiry about think of you as irrelevant. And if they do think of you as irrelevant, then the next question will be, with this inquiry that's going to be held, what happens after this inquiry? You're going to have another engagement and people are still going to be living in squalor conditions?
Not at all. In fact, today, the people of Alex were in attendance. The leaders were there, and they said, we apologize for what we did when you came to try and intervene. And we are trying to facilitate a resolution of their issues. And we've invited government to account on service delivery in Alex. And our directives are binding. Following the Concord decision in 2016, we now know that Chapter 9 institutions can make binding recommendations. So government has no choice but to implement our findings and recommendations.
Okay, so once these recommendations have been implemented, are these recommendations going to also go into the part of saying if we need for a certain MMC to be fired or a certain mayor to actually be dismissed from his post, will you be recommending that?
Well, I can't preempt the outcomes. I don't want to prejudge it. We want to give this process a chance. We have a duty to act fairly.
But surely, I'm sure you can understand that for the mere fact that refuse has not been picked up or that there's still sewage, we can't blame that on the fate of nature. Somebody did not do their job, and whether their job was to pick up litter, the job was to ensure that Alexandra Township, number one, is actually a registered and recognized township, which we've just found out actually it's not recognized. So surely somebody must account for that. And then when they do say, and when you do have that found, then surely you need to make recommendations about whether or not that person is actually fulfilling their job.
That's what we're trying to do, to ascertain as to whether government is responsive to the needs of the people. Today, the city of Joburg appeared before the Commission, and we felt that they were unprepared. We said we need to give you adequate time in order to come back to the Commission and fully address the questions from the panel. We asked a simple question. How many informal settlements are in Alexandra? We couldn't get a clear answer from the city manager. After that, we felt they probably need more time to go back and prepare a more thorough and meticulous report on what they have done in Alexandra, and to also understand the environment they operate in.
Well, we definitely, I'm sure, going to be finding out exactly what those binding recommendations are following your investigation, inquiry into the matter around the residents of Alexandra Township. And I mean, we're expecting that to be concluded within 3 months, correct?
Yes.
Well, we're going to leave our conversation there for this evening. Thanks all for joining us and shedding some light in terms of that inquiry that has been initiated by the South African Human Rights Commission. We're speaking to Boang Jones, Gauteng Provincial Manager at the South African Human Rights Commission.